You're watching BionicDance. Don't run on automatic, instead, please think.
Hey, this is Peter Heck with the third installment of our 414 video series entitled, Is God Even Real? If God exists, the only way you and I are ever going to know that is if He has decided to leave His evidence, to leave His fingerprints that we can find around us.
And that, my fellow space travelers, is about the last time he and I will agree. Let's do this. Greetings, fellow space travelers. BionicDance here. Today we've got a guy who goes by Peter Heck. And, as implied in the prologue, it sure does help the validity of religion if God left just a few bits of evidence of His existence lying about.
Has He? Here is a giant one, a massive fingerprint that too many people miss, but you need to point out whenever these questions arise. Have you ever paused to realize that there has been a near unanimous belief throughout human history in a supernatural being or beings?
Have you ever paused to realize that each of those supernatural beliefs are specific to certain global regions? You'd think if there was a God, a true God, that he, she, it, or they would have made a global appearance instead of a pinpointed precision revelation. Of course, some gods do get described as complete pricks. Other gods claim to be all-loving, but their actions would say otherwise. But doesn't it seem rather odd that each society came up with their own gods, despite certain religions insisting that doing so comes with some pretty nasty eternal punishments? What kind of sick joke is that? Or, far more likely, humans may want to believe in something more, and thus created legends to fill that need, rather than those folk tales being true.
Seriously, go back and look through history, and you will find in virtually every civilization, in every era, a belief in someone or something beyond us. Ancient cave drawings show the existence of supernatural beings. Ancient burial practices show a profound belief in an afterlife. Ancient literature is full of references to gods, God, or goddesses.
One major common thread between all of those examples is that they're ancient, that they're from a time when humanity's understanding of the universe was beyond incomplete. Sun gods, thunder gods, ocean gods, moon gods, etc., etc. These were attempts to explain the world around them when people couldn't do the job themselves. And as humankind became more and more sophisticated, more adept at science, at explaining the universe, the need for supernatural explanations became less necessary, to the point where the best humanity seems able to do is having their gods appear on toast. Citing ancient beliefs is probably not the best idea in the world when you're trying to show that something exists.
Even in our current day, well after the age of discovery convinced us all how great we are as human beings, those who exalt their intellects above everything else, if you watch, they still find their way to mystical explanations for some force out there that governs us all.
Oh, don't you dare. Don't even go there.
It's an energy field created by all living things.
You fucker. I'll have your head for that one. But I find it interesting that you decide to use an example from fiction to try to prove a point about the real world. And about scientists, no less, about intellectuals. I'd like to see you justify your statement that they still find their way to mystical explanations. Frankly, my experience has been the exact opposite. Cite some data, please, or retract your statement.
It's funny, though, these intellectuals believe that whatever is animating us is a force that is guiding and directing and enabling all the natural laws that surround us. Don't look now, but that's a fancy way of saying something or someone beyond.
No, it's not. What animates us is biology. Biology is part of the universe, like physics, chemistry, and all of those other quite natural things. Yes, the origin of the universe is still a mystery, but it's one being worked on. And much like the sun, thunder, the oceans, and the moon, saying a god did it is simply substituting in the explanation you like, facts be damned, so to speak.
But still, just because a near unanimity of human beings throughout history is believed in something beyond, that doesn't make it true. It is possible that virtually the entirety of humanity throughout history has been totally wrong on this question of God. You know the phrase, of course. If everyone else was jumping off a cliff, would you?
Okay, so we agree twice. Except we kinda don't, 'cause here's where he goes next.
Suppose you're driving down a 4-lane highway for about an hour, and every car you encounter, tens of thousands of them, right in your face, right towards you, and they're veering off to the side as you approach them. Now, what has happened there? What can you fairly, logically, reasonably conclude?
Primarily that humans built the highway, then told everybody which way they had to face, like it or not. You know, kind of like religion.
Logic and reason would tell you what? That you have in fact turned the wrong way down a one-way street.
Logic and reason also tell me that there are two-way streets elsewhere. Logic and reason tell me that which side of the street you're supposed to drive on is different in different countries. Logic and reason tell me that humans are responsible for all of the above. There are even practical reasons for each of them. Even before cars, the British drove their wagons on the left to ensure that their dominant right hand could wield a sword if they had to. And when the U.S. broke ties with Britain, the Americans wanted to cast off all remnants of British culture and thus began driving on the right. If you dig around, there are explanations for these things, and they all come from human culture, no God required. So if someone decides to drive in the opposite direction as everybody else, they might be an anarchist, but it doesn't make them wrong. And who knows, it might start to catch on, kind of the way atheism is taking root as people examine human habits instead of running on automatic and taking them for granted.
So sure, it is possible that every other human being in every other human civilization in every era of human history has been totally wrong on this question of something beyond. It's possible, but is it plausible?
Need I point out that each and every one of those people is driving a different make and model and different color of car on their way to different destinations? Is it possible that you were the one who picked the right vehicle and the right destination? Maybe. But is it plausible?
If we're going to be rational, reasonable, logical people, wouldn't reason and rationality tell us that it appears something has been hardwired into humanity for a belief in the beyond?
So what if it is? You know what else seems to be hardwired into the human brain? Racism. Do a Google search. It isn't difficult to find multiple reliable sources reporting this scientific finding. Are you really going to claim that something being hardwired into the brain necessarily makes that something correct?
If science cannot prove or disprove God, which we've already established, then what we're doing is collecting evidence. And we're going to bring in all of the evidence that we find and then render a verdict reasonably as to which direction that evidence points.
However, if you don't verify the veracity of what you claim as evidence, then your verdict will be flawed. I believe I've shown how your highway analogy breaks down upon critical examination, that ways in which the brain is hardwired is not evidence of anything beyond the neurological, and more importantly, that popular opinion does not reality make. I formally declare that what we have here is, at best, wishful thinking, coupled with an incomplete examination of the facts. Until next time, fellow space travelers, this is BionicDance saying don't run on automatic. Instead, please think.
And remember, if it can't be in your hand, it's all in your head.